chàng vậy nó. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Welcome to our English talk again.
Okay, and then you go on. So welcome to our live stream. We will discuss about the Dhamma again. In general topics, it depends on how. It depends on the pops up of our thoughts arise when we are discussing with each other. So today is the second day that we are staying in Luang Prabang. Of course, most of you may know that where Luang Prabang is. It is a World Heritage City in Laos, and it is it is the most visited sightseeing or destination that you have to come to visit when you visit Laos, especially for the foreigners. Not only that, even Lao people, you are recommended to visit this city, and of course it's ancient city. And when we walk around, we feel like it is the unseen unseen city, which is very different from other parts of Laos. So, what do you see in Luang Prabang, especially about Buddhism, about architecture, about the lifestyle of the monk? How do you feel when you see this? And how many times have you visited Luang Prabang?
This is my second time visiting Luang Prabang, and when I visit here, I feel little love. I fall in love with this city. Why? Because they can preserve the traditional culture, the architecture, and the lifestyle of people, and everything here is like they still live in ancient or traditional lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think that this is the true uniqueness of Luang Prabang.
Yeah.
That's why it's very famous.
So during this time when we are talking with each other, did you hear anything from outside?
Yeah, I hear a monk is reciting the sutta.
A monk or novice?
I'm not sure it's a
Not
monk
sure,
or novice.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the atmosphere that in every temple, especially in the countryside or maybe in the main city also, when monks, if they are new to the temple or they newly ordained as a novice or monk, they have to recite. Yeah. They have to recite the sutta.
The sutta or
Sutta.
parita.
Yeah, parita, in order to how to say, to remember. Yeah. To remember, they learn by heart actually, and then that they apply the sutta in order to chant, maybe evening or morning chanting, and then they apply it for parita. Parita chanting for the people when we are invited for house warming ceremony or for some kind of blessing ceremony. Yeah. So do you sometimes do you still recite the sutta now?
Yeah.
Or you remember all?
Of course. As a monk, we have to. We have to remember actually. Yeah. And as for me, some sutta or paritas I already forgotten, but I had to recite again.
Okay. So, when walking around the Luang Prabang city, do you like to live here or just visit it?
I'm not sure that I want to live or not, but as a the first time I see here, I feel really love. This city is really clean, it's very well organized. And there are a lot of things to see, especially when you really love the culture. Right? There are a lot of temples, the painting and everything here.
So seeing like this, do you think that Buddhism is also, Buddhism? Do you find anything that Buddhists contribute to the economy? I mean, national economy.
Yeah.
In terms of economy.
Yeah, of course. Like the temple, it can be the main tourist spot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of visitors that visit the temple, and that means that they can contribute to the economy, to the society, to that city, or even to the country as a whole as well. Just only a monastery alone, right? Not to mention another activities. Right?
Yeah. So how did you feel this morning when you went out for alms round? You see many people, especially visitors, Chinese people, offer rice to the monks. How do you feel?
It's excited because it's my first time to go for alms round like this, and I understand that as the foreigner, right? Because they are not familiar with giving alms for monks, so it might be a little bit noisy or even unorganized, something like that. So I understand, but it's like it's the unique of
For me, I feel very strange when I see a lot of tourism. When I see a lot of tourists, especially Chinese. I count this morning. I counted around 1,040 alms keepers this morning.
Yeah, I can't believe that you can count them all.
I can count. My technique of counting is that when I count up to 100, and then I begin again. Another round of 100. Right, 100, and then 1, 2, 3, until 100, and then I remember. I remember. That is the second 100.
That's a great technique.
And another one. Begin.
Because
100.
You count in a big number, you cannot remember.
Yeah, I cannot remember. 100 by 100, so I can count up to 1,040. 1,040 people giving up this morning. So it's very, wonderful. It's wonderful to see. The city isn't like this, and I wish that, I hope that Luang Prabang city would be, would sustain or sustain like this. As long as it can. I don't want it to be developed more than this. Especially, I don't want to see more capitalists to come to intervene into this area. To invest. To invest some kind of restaurant, whatever, hotel. I would like it to remain like this as long as it can, maybe 100 or more, 200 years like this.
If they can still sustain in this atmosphere, Luang Prabang still be the most visited place in Laos. It would be still popular among the tourists all around the world.
Of course. So, talking about the Dharma, as today is the second day of staying in Luang Prabang, and the first day of joining the meditation program that organized by Luang Prabang, Lao Buddhist Sangha, and the Embassy of Myanmar. Myanmar Embassy And then we have the great meditation master from Myanmar to teach meditation. His name is Patanta Kitasara. I remember.
Saddhamma Kittisara.
Saddhamma Sotikatasa, Patanta Kitisara. And how do you find the way he teach meditation? Do you learn something? Did you learn something? Or have you learned something from his teaching?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I learned many things from him. Yeah. Especially the techniques or the methods how he teach. And he teach the others, like, especially for the practitioners to understand how to practice the meditation, samatha and vipassana as well. It's like he teach us to practice. So I really love it, but I think if he can talk in English, it would be much better. Okay, we will understand more.
So our purpose of coming here is to help translating from English into Lao, from Lao into English. But no, they conduct it in Myanmar, in Burmese. In Burmese. So we just join to we just participate. But anyhow, we learn something from him, especially the way he teach meditation. When he gives the Dharma talk, he give an example like ask and answer. During his talk, he asked the audience opinions.
And it's like he teach the difficulties to be easy.
He make it easy to understand. Easy for the practitioner, for the listeners. That is very good technique that I think we have to learn from him and apply, especially for your temple.
As a forest monastery.
And amazingly, that when we look at him, he seemed like 60 years old, but his real age is
80.
He is 80 years old, but he is still strong.
He looks strong and healthy.
Strong and healthy, and teach us meditation. That's very lucky for us and for the Luang Prabang monks and nuns who participate in this program. And I think it's the first time in history that Burmese monk come to teach meditation in Luang Prabang. Maybe in Laos also, not only in Luang Prabang. The first time. But in Thailand, mostly MCU or Mahachulalongkorn Buddhist University, they invite Burmese monks to teach meditation for their students. In Laos, I think we should do the same for our students, for the monks. For you living in the forest temple, maybe you invite some Burmese monk to come to teach meditation.
We'll do that. Because as we know that Burmese monks are well known in practicing samatha vipassana, and they're very professional to practice, as the Sayadaw, the master that taught us today. Because he is like well learned master, and also he is one of the most famous venerable in Myanmar as well.
I think so. I can remember when he mentioned about his teachers. I heard the name Mokok Sayadaw. Do you know Mokok Sayadaw?
I know.
The meditation master who teach how to breathe in and out, very heavy breath, long and deep, like this.
Mokok Sayadaw is one of the most famous in Myanmar.
And I learned that his relics become like his bone, his remain become like a relics.
Lyrics.
Yeah, Mogok Sayadaw.
Ah,
So that's why he's one of the famous meditation master in Myanmar.
yeah.
So most venerable Patanta Kittisara is his student who conduct meditation retreat here in Luang Prabang. So if anyone around here in Luang Prabang, especially foreigner, maybe you can come and join, or Lao people also. You can come and join and listen, but the meditation hall is not quite big. It's not big because we have a very small ordination hall. Yeah.
Okay, they can stay outside.
Yeah, they can stay outside. Yeah. Well, today I feel a little bit tired, after the retreat. We walk around the city. We walk around many places. So that's why I feel I lost my energy. I have low energy now. But I try hard, I try hard to come and to live stream for all of us. It's not, it's very rare opportunity to talk in English. Yeah, because I don't often find someone to speak English with me.
Really, but I saw that you usually live stream in English.
Yeah, I would like to do so. But mostly I keep a live stream in Lao version, not in English. But when I talk like this, when I give the Dhamma talk in English, I'm not sure whether the audience will understand me or not. Yeah, if you understand me, you just give me a comment, and you may have some kind of question also, so that I will answer the question there. Do you have anything to say more?
Okay, so me personally, I also love this kind of activity, English talking, especially Dhamma talk in English. Yes. So that, and I also want someone who I can talk English with as well, especially in the term of Dhamma. So we can share Dhamma knowledge and also share to others as well.
Okay. So I see you look very calm and serene. Do you practice meditation?
Yeah, of course. In my monastery, we usually practice meditation, and it's like we live a simple life.
Really?
Actually, a simple life is make your life slower and make you focus on your life more than anything else.
More than anything else.
Yes, and it means that and you focus on your life, and you have to practice meditation to have a concentrated mind. When I stay at Wat Pa Dan Pa, it's like it changed my character.
Yeah. I see you change. I see you change a little, not a little bit, but much. You change a lot. You look so calm and quiet and serene somehow, maybe. And then you don't want to talk with anyone sometimes. It seems like you are introvert, but may not so, right?
Actually, I love talking.
Okay. You like to talk to only who you interest, right? Who have the same, have the same vibration.
No,
same energy.
No, actually I can talk with anyone.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. You can talk with anyone. Who is? Okay. As a young monk, do you have any recommendation or any suggestion for a young monk like you, how to study English and how to live as a young monk in order to stay longer in the monastery? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, of course I have. To study English, first of all, you should have ambition. In Buddhism, it would call faith, saddha first.
Faith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have faith or you have ambition to study English, just let's start. Let's get started. What are you waiting for? Of course, for the beginning, it would be difficult. You don't know how to do. You don't know how to manage, how to keep going on. But at least just keep going on, and then everything will be better and better. Okay, that is my suggestion for studying English. Okay. And as to live as a monk for long time, I think we have to avoid
interacting with.
Yeah, have to avoid these two things. That okay, honestly, these two things are women. It's like it's a direct
communication with
them. It's a direct harm to the monks. I don't mean
they are not good.
Yeah, they are not good, but we ourselves have to avoid from the from it's like sensual relationship, something like this.
That means we have to avoid the romantic relationship with them.
Yeah.
In that sense.
That's way for the young monks who have strong desire, something like this. It's a nature, but you can stay away from it. By keeping precepts.
And then
you practice your sila and practice meditation and simple way of life, something like this. And another thing is that you have to avoid from the collecting a lot of properties.
A lot of property, especially money, right?
If you possess a lot of that properties, yes, you will attach to them. And and at that time you attach to them, you will have a lot of things in your mind. I will do like this, I will do like that, and I will become a layman, something like this. It's like it's keep your mind listless. So it's like you can live peacefully. Okay, so as my suggestions is that you should keep avoiding these two things, women and collecting properties.
That's good advice. But most of the monks, or especially young monks, not only that, the old monk also. We like money. We like some kind of the opposite genders. That is the nature of a human being. But we have to consider that we are a monk. We are totally different from the layman. So we have to protect ourselves. We have to keep the distance from them.
And another thing is that you have to consider the 10 things that the monk should always consider all the time.
What are they?
And as I remember, maybe not all of them, like we are different from lay people. So we have to consider this point as well. And we live our life by the giving of others. So we have to practice our way of life as a monk life. We like to preserve sila, to do meditation, to cultivate wisdom, something like this.
That's good advice.
And if you always consider these 10 things, it's like it remind you all the time that we live as a monk, not a layman. So we should practice or we should walk our life in this way, something like this.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
So you're not only giving advice, but you practice by your own.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's good. You're not only talking, but you be like an example for others. That's good.
And another thing is that you have to try to do some things that is like just not living and eating, sleeping. It's like not like living a life without doing anything. You should find any activity to do, like teaching the Dharma, to help the society, to whatever that if you activate you all the time, it's like it will not let your mind to think about it, to live to be a layman, something like this.
It means that we have to do some like monastic activities. Teaching the Dhamma, practicing meditation
and any monastic activity.
Monastic activities. Okay. Not just eat and sleep. But we have to think that we live to study and practice, and to help Buddhism, not just to live and take advantage from Buddhism, right? We have to help Buddhism too.
Because if you live without doing anything, your mind tend to think about it. It's like unwholesome things.
Unwholesome things. Maybe some of you may not know unwholesome. Unwholesome, it means akusala. Akuson, okay, unwholesome. Wholesome means kuson, okay, kusala. Unwholesome things mean that your mind will think into a bad thing, different ways of the kusala.
That's, I think, is the nature of our mind, is a human mind. So if you activate yourself all the time, so like you don't let your mind to think about that, those bad things.
I heard that some of the meditation master, they compare our mind like a
monkey.
A monkey sometimes, and like the water, the stream. The mind, the current, or the mind mostly is flow to the lower. To the lower place. To the lower course. So we have to practice and uplift the mind to be higher. Otherwise, if you don't practice, if you don't cultivate or practice meditation, you will let your mind wander, or let it ruin you. But if you practice and cultivate, I mean meditation practice, and then you can improve your mind. You can
uplift your mind,
uplift the mind to be higher, not let it dilute by the unwholesome accents. Okay.
That's reality of our human mind.
Of course, when we talk about psychology, everyone is the same. Everyone is the same. Some people may say monk is a human, also human being. Lay people is a human being, but we live under the monastic rules. We are protected by our principle. So that's why we are different from other human beings, because we have more sila or principle, 227 or more than that.
Yeah.
But for general people like a lay woman and layman, they observe only 5 precepts.
Yeah.
So that is the difference, between the lay people and a monk.
Yeah.
And of course, do you think you will stay as a monk for the rest of your life?
So far, I try my best
Really?
to make pressure to live as a monk. So as my suggestion, I practice by my own. It's come from my real experiences. Okay.
Wow.
So so far, I still have a pressure to live as a monk because I can live freely. I don't have anything to be depressed about.
Do you believe in the result of the result of perfection? I mean the fruits of perfection that we have cultivated from previous life.
Yeah, of course.
For example, as we are a monk, it is because we used to be a monk in our previous life. Yeah, we believe like that. And I heard that some of our master mentioned about the 3 causes of karma, the 3 causes of kusala karma when we cultivate some kind of marriage, and then we will reborn to have these 3 conditions like alopa, atosa, amoha. Or we have less of lopa, atosa, moha. For you, maybe you have very very little lopa, tosa, moha. That's when you can you can live as a monk for for a very long time. It means you don't have any suffering from being a monk. You don't want to go outside to live as the layman, I think.
Right now I can say that I am very happy as a monk.
Okay, you're happy to be a monk. I'm not sure whether I'm happy or not, but I still have smiling face. Okay. So mostly I ask you question. Do you have any question to ask me?
Of course. So you as a monk, right, who live for a very long time. So do you have any suggestion for the young monk who may it's like cannot decide? What decide? Should they stay as a monk or should they disrobe as a layman or not? So it's like they cannot decide. They still stay in the middle. So what your suggestion for them at this point?
For me, sometimes people may think that I am very, I am not a decisive decision maker. I am not fast to decide to do something. So sometimes for the decision maker, they think that this kind of person is not very, how to say, not a very good organizer or leader or whatever. But as a monk, I think that if we slow decision maker, it means that we have very deep thinking about the things. For me, when I think about something that I should consider or decide to do something, it takes me, for a long time. For example, if I want to buy some kind of, stuff like a mobile phone. I have to think maybe 1 month, 1 month or 2 weeks or whatever. I think about it. Even a laptop, when I want to buy it, I have to consider it again and again whether I have to buy it or not. The old one that I still have it, it can still can can use. Why I have to buy new something like this? I have to consider, if I buy this, how can I have another amount of money to pay for another things like this? For being a monk, when I have an idea or the thoughts arise of wanting to become a layman or disrobe or whatever, I have to think again and again. Whether I have to decide to disrobe right now or not. If I disrobe now, what I will do? What I will do? How to live outside? It doesn't mean that I'm afraid of being a layman. It doesn't mean like that.
It's like you have to plan every aspect of
I
your
have to.
life.
I have to plan. I have to think. I have very critical thinking, analytical thinking about this. So, for example, if I live as a layman, how many years I have to live more? How long I have to stay as a layman? For example, maybe if I disrobe, I may spend my 10 years and then die, pass away, like that. That is the way I think about it. But to live in the temple, maybe I will live longer than becoming a layman, and I have an opportunity to practice meditation. For example, if I live in the temple, I don't have to take care of anyone. I don't have to take care of my son or daughters, my wife or whatever. Everything, every staff, I have to take care like a householder. So even I have only one bowl, even I don't have money, living as a monk, I just take a bowl, going out in the morning, and then I get some food, and then I sustain my life. I don't want to care about anything. Even I am not rich, even I don't have many supporters, donors, devotees or whatever. Even I am not famous or popular. Just becoming a very simple monk, I can, live. And I can practice meditation. I can, cultivate my punya, merits as a monk. So I have to think over again and again, over and again. That is the advantage of becoming a monk, or the disadvantage of becoming a layman. Of course, some people may think that to become a layman, you have, free lifestyle, free freedom. You can go anywhere. You can go and sit in the restaurant. You can go to entertaining venues or whatever. You can meet up with women freely, openly, like that.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you have a lot of burdens.
Burdens,
to hold as well.
That is the way I consider. And of course, in order to become a good monk, it doesn't mean that I am a good monk, but to become a good monk or stable in this sense, I mean stable mind. That you have to practice meditation very often in order to train your inner strength. I mean the mind to be trained, to be strong. In order to have more inner power. Otherwise you will be dragged by the external power, like a rupa. You whatever you see, whatever you experience.
So as your suggestions is that you have to take time to decide what should you do in your life, and you should have a clear path. Right?
It doesn't mean that I don't have some kind of like a feeling like a lay people. I have sometimes as an ordinary monk, not an arahant. When I see someone, if they are beautiful, I say, I am about beautiful.
I think
But
many months.
yeah, I can say that. Oh,
well.
you are beautiful, but nothing to do with me, like that. Yeah, of course you're beautiful, but nothing to do with me. I want to stay with you, but yeah, I decide not to go like that.
So you
I
have
decide to live as a monk.
So you have to take time to
Yeah.
consider your
Again and
future,
again.
your life.
Yeah.
Okay, again and again, and also you have to practice meditation.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
of course,
to
of
have
course.
a calm mind as well.
Now we have only four for watching us. If anyone have comments, you can leave the comments here. Of course, it's the time to speak English together, to practice
So
speaking English.
So if you don't mind, can I have more?
Okay.
So another question is that so what is the most difficulty of being a monk?
The most difficulty of being a monk is to remain as a monk. To become a monk is, the most difficulty is to be a good monk.
Be a good monk, So as we talk, right, to be a good monk is like we have to.
If you just be a monk and just to be a monk and you can do anything, that is not really a good monk. So the most difficult thing is you have to remain as a monk.
It's like we have to find our inside.
You have to find again your kilesa or defilements.
So as long as you can escape or fight them, so you can live free.
If you are not deluded by the defilements, you can live very happily as a monk. For example, if you find someone very beautiful come to visit you, and then you just see them like that, you are not attached to them. Then you are still happy to be a monk.
So as you said, to be a good monk is the most difficult thing of being a monk. And make me think of the teaching of the Buddha that to be a good monk, I think we have to comprise of these two things.
What are they?
In Pali it's called Vicca and Jhana.
Vicca
is mean knowledge, wisdom, experience, skills, and Jhana is mean your morality, your practice.
Of course.
You have to balance these two things together.
But someone, when they have knowledge, but their practice is not good, that means they cannot remain as a good monk.
That's right. It's like if you have morality, right, you preserve your practice, your morality, it will sustain you in a good way, in a moral life.
Okay.
But if you have wisdom, it's like you can help yourself, uplift your mind, yourself as well, and also you can help others as well. So it means that these two things have to go together. It cannot separate, be separated. And if you have only one thing, for example, if you have moral wisdom or panya only, so you can use that wisdom in a harmful way as well. And on the other hand, if you have only sila, morality only, it's like you are a good monk, very good monk, but you cannot help others. You just live as about it.
But it's still okay.
It's okay. But
like an individual Buddha. Pacceka Buddha. Still okay.
Something like that.
Okay. Any more question?
My question. Yeah. So, how about studying the Dhamma? Okay. So, to understand about the Buddha teaching, what should we study first, and what should we understand first?
Actually, the Buddha's teaching is like other subjects. I mean, the process of learning, it takes time. You have to read, you have to listen. Like Yoniso Manasikara, Parato Kosa, something like this. You have to learn by yourself and have to listen to other people and take it into consideration. Of course, these days we have many resources to learn the Dhamma. You can find out from the internet also, digital resources, and then you listen and practice. You read, and then there are many more resources nowadays. Yeah. At first, you have to know, like in Laos we have Dhamma book. Yeah. They categorize into sections, like the section 1, section 2, section 3. It means that section 1 there is only one main topic of the Dhamma. Section 2 they have two main topics of the Dhamma. Categorized. Especially you can find from the Tipitaka from Anguttara Nikaya. Eka Nipada, Tuka Nipada, Tika. Yeah. That means Eka, it means only one topic of the Dhamma in the discourse. Tuka, it means two. So you have to learn from the beginning like that. Or for general people, if you want to study Buddhism, especially the foreigner, you are advised to begin from Dhammapada. Dhammapada is just like a very short shortcut. I mean, very short guideline for you to study Buddhism. If you understand the Dhammapada, you understand nearly the whole concept of Buddhism. Yeah.
It's like Dhammapada summarized.
Yeah, it's summarized.
The whole teaching of the Buddha.
Yeah, very concise, very concise books that you have to learn from that. If you understand only the Dhammapada, and then it can lead you to go deeper into the details of the Buddha's teachings. Yeah.
I understand. So for the beginners,
for beginner
of studying Dhamma, you should study from the easy teachings first.
Yeah. But some of the teachers may advise you like that. You have to understand the Four Noble Truths.
I think it's very difficult.
The Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the five precepts, 8 precepts, 5 aggregates, something like this. If you understand this kind of thing, like even also the 3 characteristics of things like anicca, dukkha, anatta, this is a very, fundamental concept of the Buddha's teachings. If you understand these teachings, you understand merely.
It's like the whole teaching of the Buddha.
Yeah, the whole teaching of the Buddha. For those who will be Dhamma preacher, if you understand how to explain the Dhamma within this scope of the teachings, you will understand how to give the Dhamma talk within only this area. And then you can give the very correct teaching of the Buddha. If you give the Dhamma talk without this kind of area, that is wrong teaching. Yeah. Even you give the Dhamma talk in very plain language, very easy language, but if it's within this scope, area, anicca, dukkha, anatta, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, in your own language, it is still the good teaching, the direct teaching.
It's like these teachings are the main, are the core teaching of the
Buddha. The core teaching of the Buddha. That can be your guideline. Yeah. If someone said that this kind of thing is permanent, that is not the Buddha's teaching. because nothing is permanent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we have time, we can talk about these three characteristics or
maybe
the core Buddha teaching as a whole. I'm very interested in. Yeah.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Hello, Suvarna Piku. You are watching us from Myanmar.
Oh.
You are watching us from Myanmar.
Mingalaba.
Yeah, Mingarabhaya. Jesutimare. Okay. So what time now? I think we talk more and more.
So before we end our live stream today session, I have one more question, please.
Okay.
I think it would be very important for us as a monk, as a whole. So to be, as we talk about, to be a good monk as well, and so to develop ourselves as a monk, right? To be a good monk, to be advanced, well-known monk, something like this. So what should we do now? How should we practice ourselves to develop ourselves? I mean,
sometime a good monk it doesn't mean to be well known. The well-known monk may not be good monk, but the good monk may not be famous. Yeah. But in order to develop ourselves, to be good monk is we have to observe strictly the principle. I mean monastic rules for us as a monk. Yeah. Precept, sila, samadhi. But of course we have three trainings. Three sikha. Sila, samadhi, and panya. Yeah. You have to train like a morality, high training in morality, sila, sikha, and high training in citta, sikha, high training in mentality, and high training in wisdom. Yeah, sila, samadhi, and panya. Yeah, for a monk, if we have observed very well the principle, and then we can develop ourselves higher and higher. So without the good foundation of precept, I mean, if as a monk, if we break any rule that cannot help us to develop higher in the spiritual development, you may not have an opportunity to attain to the higher level of spiritual attainment. Like Sotapanna, Sakitaka, Arahant, Anaka, and Arahant. If you just be a monk. And you may
normal monk.
Right. Normal monk. That is the way we have to develop ourselves. To be a monk, it is not like to be a monk is not only to stay in the temple. To live day by day, just wait for somebody to invite us to have lunch, to perform any kind of ceremony. But we have to learn and practice. Even nobody knows us, even nobody see us. We have to practice ourselves. You have to develop yourself like a mental development. It means that meditation practice. Maybe you need individual training. You don't need to open for public, for somebody to know how good practice you are. This is the way to help yourself, to survive yourself before help somebody to survive in this samsara. You have to train yourself first.
It's like being a monk. We have to develop ourselves, and then after developing yourself, you have to help others as well. First of all, you have to train yourself first.
Okay.
I see that.
Not just wait for somebody to give alms, wait for invitation to have a lot of money, something.
It's our main duty that to do that. It's like to change ourselves and also to to do for others as well, for our religion, society.
But when we talk about the duties, there are two duties in Buddhism: Kanta Thula and Vipassana Thula. It means that Kanta is mean you have something to learn, especially you learn Pariyatti, you study the Buddha's teachings, and then you put it into practice. Vipassana Thula is it to practice.
It's like 3 religions, 3 sasanas, right? Pariyatti, Patipatti, and Pativeta.
Pativeta, yeah.
Pariyatti is the Kanta Thula.
Yeah, learning.
And Patipatti and Pativeta
practice.
Is practicing Vipassana.
Pativeta is means you realize, you understand deeply the Buddha's teachings, and then you apply into daily life and maybe teach other people. And then you.
I see.
So.
I think it's very late today.
It's very late today. Now it's 9:30. 9:30. So I think we should end up our live stream today. And thank you very much for watching our Dhamma discussion. I hope that in the future we will come and talk again. If anyone want to, share, want to ask some question, you can leave the question here. You can leave the comment. If you think it's useful or beneficial for somebody else, you can share. So to have a live stream on Facebook, live stream or giving a Dhamma talk on the Facebook or social media, it doesn't mean we want to be famous. I don't want to be famous. I just want to share the Dhamma talk with somebody else.
To share that too.
Why I have to say that I don't want to be famous? Because you do something like this for many years, within 10 years, I, give live stream, maybe I put the Dhamma talk on the Facebook or YouTube or whatever. It doesn't mean I want to be famous. Just want to share, to do the duties of a monk, that deliver or share Dhamma talks with other people.
Sharing the Buddha's
Dhamma
teachings on social media is another kind of propagation of the Dhamma as well. In this case, I think that it is the way of giving also. The Buddha says, Dhamma thanang, sappathanang dhamma thanang shinati. It means that the gift of Dhamma excels all other gifts. It means the people give us food, but as a monk we don't have anything to give them back. So we have only the Dhamma to share with them. So that's why I come, to give the Dhamma talk or live stream sometime. It doesn't mean I want to be famous. You don't need to give me anything. Just listen and share. Or that would be okay for us. When walking in the street or when we go somewhere, you don't need to say that, I'm listening to you. But it's okay. I really appreciate your devotion to share the Dhamma, the guidelines to others. As you said, right, we as a monk, they don't have nothing to give them back. Just only the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha.
So I think it's time for us to say good night. And thank you very much for watching, and hope this talk is useful for some of you, especially for those who are interested in listening to the Dhamma, for those who understand our English Dhamma talk or Dhamma discussion. So see you next time. May you be well and happy. Good night.
Thank you.